I cannot believe it's been 4 weeks since my last eyes versus lips video. Where is the time going? Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm bringing you the 6th episode in my lips versus eyes series that I'm doing with Brandy, Shay and Samantha, who I'll have all of them linked down below, so make sure you check them out. So just a quick reminder of basically what this whole challenge, this whole series is all about. We are using the September Lippie challenge and the Pan Those Miraculous Palettes challenge, created by Samantha and Brandy respectively, to get some use out of our lipsticks and our eye palettes. So if you remember from last episode, I discussed the last 2 lipsticks that were in my September Lippie challenge and introduced the next 4 weeks of palettes. Though technically I only introduced 2 palettes because some of the prompts were repetitive palettes. So I'm going to quickly go through last month's, do a bit of a recap about what I used before we're jumping in to what we're going to be using palette wise, because as you know, the September Lippie challenge is over. So we're going to jump into what we use palette wise for the next months coming forward. I did take some photos throughout, but not that many. But what I'll do is I'll just chuck those up while I'm talking if I feel that is the right time to do so. So I'm going to start off by going through the 2 lipsticks that I wore for the September Lippie challenge that rounded up that section of the series altogether. So the first one was for day 29, which was your most go-to lip. And I use this Peppermint Lip Treatment by OXX. It is essentially just a lip balm. The reason I went for this is because I always have a lip balm around and about, and I always just chuck it on. So it's definitely a go-to lip. I wear it at least once, if not twice a day. So I use this. I enjoy this lip product in itself. I enjoy this balm. It is minty, but it's definitely more pepperminty than spearminty. Like the mint smell is not as strong as I would have liked, but it is quite a nice lip balm all the same. For day 30, it was a lip product you are looking to declutter, and I'm pretty sure I actually used the same lip product for this last year, which probably says something about me as a human being. But it was this Mickey Big Lip in, I think it's Diva, Big Lippie in Diva, and it's actually broken. It's this little thing that rolls out is broken at the base, and it gets stuck up onto the lid. It is not a nice lipstick. It's kind of like children's makeup, and it smells so plasticky. It's just gross. It's waxy, and it is not a nice lip product. And on top of that, it's basically bright pink, which is not really my go. So I really do need to declutter it because I am not going to use it. I think the problem is that I don't really like decluttering things, but I just need to do it. I just need to make the decision and get rid of it. But hopefully this will be gone before my January inventories are done. That is my one goal in regards to this. Take the plunge and get rid of it. Next, we are going to quickly go through the palettes I use. If you remember correctly, for week 5, which is my most expensive palette, week 6, which is my most, a palette that has an emotional connection, and week 7, which is a palette that reminds you of a special memory, I chose to use the same palette for all of those, which was my KVD Metal Matte palette. I will just show you it here. It was this one here, and I love it. I love this palette. I enjoyed using it for the weeks I've used it, and I've used quite a few shades a few times, but unfortunately no pan or anything like that yet. but I'm quite happy with the process. I think I do have a few photos which I'll put up around here somewhere. But definitely I was happy using these for 3 weeks of the month, and I look forward to using it again in the near future. Week 8, we got to change up the palette, and it was my least expensive palette, which was my Revolution, well is, so to say, is my Revolution 144 Ultimate Eyeshadow Palette Collection 2018. Isn't that a mouthful? Because this was a free gift with purchase. So there is nothing new to discuss in regards to this palette, and as you'll see in an upcoming pan those eyeshadows video, I still have not hit pan in the one shade that I've been working on consistently from this palette, but this is where I am so far with it. I do enjoy these shades. I don't really have any problem with them, and I was quite happy to use it. So I won't. Sometimes I think about the fact that this was technically a free palette and it's quite large, and obviously for it to be free it mustn't be that expensive in itself, but whether I should declutter it, but I can't and I haven't and I probably won't. Okay, now moving on to the next 4 weeks. So what I'm going to do is, as I did last week, to save time, I'm not going to put up live swatches. I'm going to do swatches of my palettes, probably put them up here somewhere as we go through the palettes and the prompts, just because otherwise it is going to take up way too much time in regards to this video. Okay, so starting with week 9, the prompt is a palette you got because of YouTube and you love. And for that, I could not miss out on using my Revolutions, the Emily Edit the Wants palette. I know that this palette has had a bit of controversy in regards to people not liking the formula, etc, etc. But personally, I do enjoy this palette. So this is it here. And I will put up some swatches over here. I personally enjoy the palette and I enjoy the color story. Do I think maybe some of the shades could be better? Yes, possibly. But I think that with most palettes. But overall, I am very happy with this. I will say that I did use Top Story today on my eyelids, which I haven't actually used it before, and I would say if I was going to use it again, I would use a glitter glue with it. But otherwise, all these other shimmers, I have overall had not that many issues with them. I know that some people have had quite a lot of issues with them and they did not like the formula that come with this palette, but personally I like it and I love it. I love the color story and I love the palette, and I was very happy that I could buy this palette and support Emily in her makeup journey. Prompt number 10 is my biggest palette, and once again that is my Revolutions 144 Ultimate Eyeshadow Palette Collection 2018. So we'll be using that again in week 10, and like I said last time, this palette has got 144 shades in it, so I am not going to be swatching all of them, but I will hold it up for you here so that you, there we go, there you go, so you can definitely see a good look at what all these shadows are. It is very neutral overall. I will say that this is probably one of the least neutral ones out of this type of set I've seen, but there is quite a lot over here that is very light and very neutral, and then a few of the shades in here are very, very similar. So I would say that if I actually depotted this, which I did look at doing, as you can see, I did try on this one, which was one of the shades that broke. I've still got that in a repressed in another palette that you may have seen in a few other bits and bobs going around. But these little pans are, what is the word? They are not magnetic. So I haven't depotted it because I did think about depotting it and having a look at the shades and maybe thinking about it, because especially some of these darker shades, so say these two right here for example, apart from the fact that looking at it going like this, I feel like this one here is slightly darker. Let's just swatch these two just so we can have a look. So if you look here, this one's slightly lighter, which is this one here. This one is slightly darker, but overall they are very, very similar. And to be honest, I think that this darker one, let me just put them on here. Yeah, like when I do this, can you really tell the difference? Not really. And I think if I put them on my eyes, that they wouldn't really look that much different. So maybe something that I will do in the future, and let me know if you are interested in seeing me do it, is actually go through, look at the shades, ones that are so similar that they're close enough to being dupes. I might actually, you know, franken them together and make little palettes with less number of shadows, but obviously it will still have the same physical weight amount of shadows. But one, it will save up space, and two, it won't seem as overwhelming. But let me know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing, because I may actually do that. Prompt number 11 is my least favorite palette, and I do actually have a few palettes in my collection that I have never worn. So to be honest, I couldn't tell you on my scaling ways where that they would be, whether they would be my least favorite, because I'm not actually sure how good they are, what's the usage like of them. But going from what I do know at this current point, my least favorite palette is this Bi's Fantasy eyeshadow palette. It is a rainbow palette. Let's just pull this up here. And these shadows are, they're chalky, they're dusty, they're not very pigmented. They are definitely not my favorite. But this was my first rainbow palette because this was cheaper than all the rest, and I thought I would get this first. Since then, I actually haven't bought any Bi's makeup. Though in saying that, Bi's have a few palettes like this that look very similar to, say, the Naked palettes in different themes and color stories. There's a berry one that probably looks a bit similar to the Naked Heat, and there's a few other ones like that. And I am so drawn to them because the colors in the palette, like this looks really pretty. But once you actually get down to putting them on your eyes, they're not that great, and they're not that punchy. So this is my least favorite, and it has stopped me from buying any more Bi's makeup products. But I'll be honest, I will probably cave at one point, because every time I look at them I think, but that one might be different. What's the likelihood of it actually being different is probably quite low, because Bi's in Australia, I'm not sure if you get Bi's in America or any other countries, but they are our cheapest makeup brand. So they're quite cheap, but I just keep thinking, oh, the next one might be better. And there's this one that's like Cosmo, and it is so pretty in the pan. But really, is it actually going to be better, or is it going to be like this one? I can't really tell you. But anyway, that is not really what we're here to discuss, but this is my least favorite palette, so I'll be using this one. So the last palette I'll be working on for this month is for week 12, and it's a palette that takes you out of your comfort zone. So for anyone that did watch my Get Ready With Me Dust Collectors that I do with Paula once a month, you'll know that I tried out the Beauty Bay Pastels palette for the first time, and I found it a little bit difficult to use, because even though I like to use color and rainbow colors, pastels are a lot different to that. They're a bit more out of my comfort zone. So I decided to go with my Beauty Bay Pastels palette for my a palette outside of my comfort zone. So this is the palette that I'm going to be using for week 12. Okay, so that is the next 4 weeks worth of palettes that I'm going to be using. If there are any palettes that you would like to hear more about in regards to these ones, or any that you would like me to do a specialized video on, maybe even a palette bingo or something similar, please let me know, because I would love to do that for you. Let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, that's all we've got for today. So I'm Verity. That was the 6th episode in my Lips versus Eyes series I'm doing with Brandy, Shay, and Samantha. And now to the outro.